Welcome to Retire Repurposed. Today, Ben Taatjes and I tackle a subject that's particularly relevant in these volatile market times, our relationship with money. It's fascinating how market turbulence exposes our true attachment to wealth. Have you ever wondered why some retirees with modest savings live with remarkable freedom, while others with 7 or 8 figure portfolios experience constant anxiety? The difference isn't in the amount, it's in the mindset. Join us as Ben reveals the antidote to market attachment and shares practical strategies for developing a retirement approach focused on income rather than wealth, allowing you to experience peace regardless of what the financial markets may throw your way. Enjoy this episode. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Jarrett's Best to joining you on another episode of Retire Repurposed. Last week, we talked about one of Ben's favorite topics, this differentiation between wealth and income. It was an entire chapter in his book, Repurpose, The Untold Story of Retirement in America. And the weeks prior to that, we broke down the mantra of Repurpose, which is time, talent, and treasure. And how do you steward that to your greatest ability in retirement? If you missed any of those shows, please go back on your favorite podcasting platform, like and subscribe while you are there. But this really gives you a deep dive into what we believe on this show. We've been doing this show for several years, and there are some foundational truths by which we operate by, and that is certainly one of them. So please go back and listen to those shows. Ben Taatjes joins me on the show now, and again, this whole idea of time, talent, treasure, maybe for people that are new to this podcast, new to this show, new to this platform, give people just kind of a quick overview as to what that actually means.
Well, for us, it means that what we're helping people steward. Jared, I love the word stewardship. We're talking about today is like, when you look at yourself as not an owner, but a steward of your life, I think it does change the way we make decisions. It frees you. And what I look at, what are we stewarding? We're stewarding time, talent, and treasure. Goes back to the parable of the talents, and I love that. I love that parable. If you've never, if you're not a believer, number one, dig into that. There's a lot of wisdom, and this show we talk about God a lot. We do. We talk about that because it's important to me. If you're not a believer, listen, there's wisdom in the Bible. And I think more and more, when I look at the financial side of our business, we're in a wisdom business, Jared. I mean, there's so much stuff out there today that people are worried about. There's uncertainty. There's all these things, and we are a wisdom business. And when I look at the stewardship of money, of people's treasure, that's really where I lean into the most.
Yeah. Well, you can't get away. You can't get away from the God perspective. How do you talk about purpose? How do you talk about some of these deep topics without going there? So again, we're not going there, to preach, but at the same time, to your point, there's a lot of wisdom there. You use the word freedom. We're going to get into that today, and I want to ask you some specific questions on that because that's why this is so important. There are so many people that fall into money, save money, help generate wealth through savings, and that freedom piece gets sacrificed sometimes along in the process of creating that. So I really want to dive into that. Let's start going there.
Yeah, I think right off the bat. Remember, Jared, when I talked about this in Repurposed, the chapter's title is "Money Doesn't Buy Happiness, But Pensions Do." Okay, and the idea behind that is a differentiator between wealth and income, which we talked about on last week's show. It's so important because I don't see people generally lose freedom or be owned by their money or have control issues with their daily bread, i.e. the income side of money. It's almost always the wealth side or wealth creation of money. So it's like managing it creates and many times a bondage to that. And it actually detracts from somebody's life versus the regular recurring income is the useful side of money where we use to experience life. And I look at money always as a tool. It is never the end. It is always the means, right? And I think that's where when we see that go awry is when we start to see a loss of the freedom that money can bring you, because money can. A certain level of income can bring you freedom. It can give you, make your life better. But at a certain point, and there's different studies on that show at what point does even income start to detract from somebody's happiness or joy. Mm-hmm. It can definitely detract from freedom, and it comes back to that idea of what's most important, which side of money is most important, and it's always, to me, the income is the piece that we need to focus on the most.
Yeah. Again, if you missed last week's show, go back and re-listen to that. If this is a kind of a new concept to you, I haven't heard about this, and your retirement plan and really your whole mindset towards retirement is all about accumulating. Please go back and listen to last week's show. And by the way, pick up a copy of Ben's book, Repurpose: The Untold Story of Retirement in America. It will also dive deeper into this concept as well. On today's show, we're going to talk more about this idea of money, of our treasure, how to steward it. And in light of uncertainty, regardless of when you are listening to this, there's always an element of uncertainty in the world, in the market. As of the recording of the show, there's been a lot of uncertainty. Just talk about how does that play into what you do, the mood of the people that you meet with, and what you try to help them see?
Well, it definitely plays into their mood, Jared. I mean, it's not uncommon. I usually ask the question. I mean, I like to know how people are doing, in our meeting. I mean, it's a pretty common thing. And, people come into our office and, how are you? And you do it certainly in a market that's volatile or down. I can remember a time just recently where one of my clients said, I'm not doing very good. Have you seen the market? I'm like, no, I didn't ask how the market was doing. I said, how are you doing? Mm-hmm. And for some people, it becomes one of the same. And in this market, you're bipolar. You're up, you're down, you're back and forth. And it's hard if you can't disconnect attachment, mm-hmm. right, from your money, and certainly from that retirement account statement, with, by the way, is the wealth that we've talked about in the past shows. The statement's the wealth, the usable income, right? Or the usable money that's coming to you is the income side. So again, if you can't detach yourself, your self-worth from that, mm-hmm. I said, it's a miserable life.
Yeah.
I'll just say it is miserable to go through that. Our happiest, healthiest retirees are the ones that say, no, I have a plan that sets forth my income, and it is enough. One of the first things we'll do with a client is ask them, what are you stewarding? What's the total of what you're stewarding? The second question I think is highly important is, what do you need now and in the future to live on? That question, Jared, sets up the third question, because usually there's something left over, mm-hmm. and it becomes, what do I do with what's left over? And when do I give it to charity? When do I give it to my kids? I need to highlight that middle section over and over and over in volatile markets, because if you know that you are okay,
your
right?
needs are being met.
Your daily bread is there.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier to weather the storm of the uncertainty that is part of the game when you are a long-term investor.
What are retirees, what are they feeling? They turn on the news. And by the way, I heard a term this week that I've never heard before. Somebody said that we're in a perma-crisis, which have you heard that before?
I've read that.
Okay,
seen that.
I guess I've never seen that before, but basically, for the last, who knows, decade, 2 decades, whatever. It's just there's this never-ending crisis that we're in. The news is cycling, about every 5 seconds? And if it's not this thing, it's the other thing. What does that, man, I mean, put yourself, you're not of retirement age just yet, Ben, but how does that really tear at people down to the soul level? I mean, it's got to be, in some respects, has to be horrible.
Well, Jared, you and I talked about this before going on the air. If you think that, your 401k down 5 or 10% is a crisis, if you think that's a problem, I mean, that may be a challenge, that may be a short-term thing that you're going through.
Yeah.
But if that is a perma-crisis to you, and your emotions are ebbing and flowing with the tide of the markets, man, I've got something else to offer you, and it is certainly not that. I mean, part of our job is setting expectations right? And showing people like this is, it's planning, number one, but then it's expectations of what's to come. And I can guarantee almost nothing other than that there will be volatility in the market, and there will be many ebbs and flows going forward. Mm-hmm. So setting the expectation properly is of utmost important when you're meeting with somebody. But again, Jared, if too much of our self-worth and is in our net worth, if you will, I hate to use that cliche, but it causes problems.
Yeah.
And I think for retirees specifically, Jared, if I get into their headspace a little bit, because I get to meet across the table from thousands of them in my career, there's an element of like I'm not earning anything anymore, right, from my job. I don't have an income from anywhere else. So when I see this portfolio balance, I saved this money and now the balance is going down, either from me just using it or from the markets doing what they do, there's a real it's hard to detach from that feeling of loss, right? Because when you have less and less in your life to keep your mindset off of yourself, right, i.e. work, creating value for others, and some retirees fall into that trap where retirement is all about my daily golf game, my whatever it is that you're doing, where you focus totally on yourself. I'm probably stepping on toes, but when you get so focused on your own self, and this is for me too, this is for all of us, it is really easy to go down the negativity and start to feel not very good. I mean, it's a pretty basic equation.
Yeah. I'm curious. I want to ask you this. There could be people that you work with, and I'm sure that there are, that have, meager nest eggs. Very happy, free, not tied to the market. They're full of joy. And then on the other side of the coin, you have people who have sizable nest eggs, 7 figures, multiple 7 figures. And they live in this constant swirl of emotion, like almost like emotional purgatory. Like they're just enslaved to the cycles of all the things going on in the permacrisis, and they don't have the freedom even though they have enough. What is it about those people that have the freedom that the other people that maybe have more don't have?
Well, I actually think, Jared, has nothing to do with the amount they have. What I've seen is it is portfolio agnostic. It doesn't matter if somebody's got 10 million, 15 million, or they've got 150,000 or 200,000. It is it's an ability to say, hey, I'm a steward of this. I am simply, I use the word stewardship. It ties back to ownership of, and control, right? Get a tight fist. I'm doing it right now. Tight fist is tense. It's hard to, there's work there to holding my fist tight. But when I release that, it's easy. It's just, and I hold it open palm in front of myself and say, this is not mine. I am simply a steward of it. God, you own this. What do you have for me? Those are the people, whether or not they've got 15 million or 150,000, that I think weather the storm, walk through this extremely well. And I think it doesn't matter. If to some degree, there's a daily need that people have, and but the mindset of some of the most generous people, I think that's probably the commonality between those two people. Yeah. They're generous because they're saying, there's always somebody that needs it more than me. There's always somebody that's hurting more than I am, that is going through real crisis, and they're able to freely give. That's the antidote, right? Yeah. So if you want to fix the problem, I was at a fundraising event here last week with a local nonprofit, and I was talking to a friend beforehand, and he's like, I was talking to my wife before the event, and she was like, well, what are we going to give? And I go, well, let's give what we gave last year, but we should probably give a little more. And it was hard to say that because, of course, the market gyrations that we were in the middle of. Right. But he was able to do more. He said that's when it's really challenging, and that's when it was the most meaningful for him to give, was when it felt like he didn't have it. Yeah. I love seeing that. I mean, you want to free yourself from from money is give it before you got it to some extent.
Absolutely.
So many times as business owners, and we wait till the end of the year. How much money did we amass? And now let's start giving.
Write the check.
Write the check after, right? What if you did it quarterly? And I've talked to a lot of people in the higher net worth camp lately that are moving to quarterly gifts that they're doing in anticipation, not A plus B equals C giving, but as an anticipation. And I'll mention this too. In that event, Jared, I felt very led to give more than we've ever given to this nonprofit. I looked at my wife and said, here's the number. And we did it. And she's like, wow. The very next day, something happened within the business that was a wow, that came from nowhere. I know it didn't. Again, I don't think it's A plus B equals C.
Yeah.
But to your point about how I felt about the markets and my own personal nest egg, when I am free with it, open-handed giving, it does do something
Absolutely.
to how I look at the wealth that I've been entrusted.
Yeah. That's a really, there's a lot to unpack there. Several things come to mind. I was challenged not to create like a revenue goal. Like instead of like, at the beginning of the year, it's like, how much money do I want to try to make this year? I was challenged to like create a revenue goal, or I'm sorry, not a revenue goal, a giving goal. How much did you give last year? What if you could double that? So on my whiteboard is actually a giving goal.
Love it.
Then in prayer, I ask God for the opportunities, the abilities, the connections with the people, the companies, whatever, to create that type of income and impact to then give that away. And so I think to your point, it does several things. First of all, it gets you out ahead of it, and it really, really solidifies this idea of having like a giving mindset. And I don't know if I want to go there, but like I always think of the scripture, the root of all evil is the love of money. The love of money is the root of all evil. When I was a little baby Christian and I had no money, I thought that applied to the rich people, all the ones that have the money. Look at them flaunting it around. And as I've grown up and obviously matured spiritually, I realized that it's really a mindset. I mean, people can have very little and be attached to money, or you can have a lot and be attached to money. And so really it's that attachment to the money is really what does it. And to your point, the giving is what releases that. Am I articulating that well?
You are very well. And I remember that the love of money, the word M is intentionally capitalized because it is like, this is a God, right? So it is important that you note that rich people, you don't ever think about, oh man, this person has a love of money because they have a lot of it. That is not the case from what I've seen.
I would challenge you, by the way, if you think that, check yourself on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So no, it's a entire all of us problem for most people. It's like, and I've had that. Like we were talking before the show. It's like, man, where's your attachment? Is it with pride? Is it with money? I think it's with control, but we don't need to get into that too far here. But I believe that, Jared, the proper way to view money, and the antidote, yes, is giving, but the view of it as a tool, right? I can't highlight that enough, is that it is the means to an end. Now, you can get to the point where you are worshiping the end goal as well, the stuff. But if we're just going to look at the portfolio and the money that you have, if you're looking as a tool, it's hard to worship a tool. It's hard to worship a hammer, okay? So let's start there and just say, okay, I don't, other than maybe a carpenter, would he highlight his hammer? Maybe. But other than that, it's what it creates, right? So if you look at the money as strictly the tool, it's really hard to get to the point at which you start to replace God with it, because again, it's like, well, it's just a tool in order for me to get life experiences. It's just a tool for me to better my kids' lives someday, or today, hopefully, if you're doing it right. It's just a tool for me to impact a charity that I love. That is again, where I always start when people talk about the love of money. It's like, well, let's get down to what it is, right? A tool. And that is where we start, and then you begin to break down the control that people get from it, because we all want, if we're honest, I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to have more. It'd be nice to have more, and then at some point, you're like, man, this is making my life worse, not better. And that is not uncommon.
You said something to the effect of, we really don't have a lot of problems. Like your 401k going down, a couple of percent isn't a massive problem. If we were to step back and take a 30,000 foot view, I think I would agree with you that. And on a deeper scale, other than just money and 401ks and the market and stuff like that, I'm always kind of checking myself and really allowing myself to grasp that I really don't have a lot of problems. I have challenges, but I don't have a lot of problems. I mean, how do you thrive in a world that's filled with problems? You know what I'm saying? Like that's a bad lens to really take upon. Would it be fair, and I want to hear your opinion on this, would it be fair to look at like the market volatility and all the uncertainty that's happening with retirees and people are stuck on that? What if they shifted that viewpoint? Instead of looking at the market going up and down and man, holy cow, look at what's going on here and look at what he did and she said and all this stuff. What if you looked at that through the lens of like, what an opportunity to flex the faith muscle, to flex the giving muscle, to flex the certainty muscle that my needs are met and everything's going to be okay. What a shift that people can make to really turn this thing around.
Yeah, I think mindset's everything coming into this. It is where you have to look at it is where opportunities might lie. And there's certainly planning techniques that come into that, and we don't get into that on this show. It's for you and your advisor, and hopefully you have one that looks at money as a stewardship and looks at this stuff as opportunity. But if you look at it through that lens, Jared, of the mindset is, yeah, this is not fun. Nothing's fun about that. I'm not downplaying the emotional roller coaster that people can go on when the markets are up and down. But the mindset needs to be one of, hey, I don't own this. I'm out. I can't control it. What can I control? We talk about that a lot. Is there's this big E economy, right? And that comes down to market cycles and tariffs and everything else. Yeah, I said the word. So all of that stuff going on, you have no control over that. You can control your own personal economy, how you look at debt, how you're saving, all of the important steps to creating a sound financial picture. That's all very important. Yep. Diversified holdings, understanding where your money is and your risks, all very important. You're stewarding these assets. But I think when you shift the mindset to say, okay, God, this is yours. I am a steward. I give this to you. I'm going to do my best, right? That's key. Do your best with what you have. I think it's freeing. I think it allows people to make informed decisions of opportune things that this market creates, right? And sometimes, yes, that's giving because you're somebody that struggles with control. Hey, give up the control. Yeah. Sometimes it's, a tax decision. Sometimes it's a portfolio decision, all those things. You need to look at the mindset through that lens, like you said, not a problem, but a challenge or opportunity. I've
heard it said too, and we can kind of start to wrap up the show with this, but that prosperity is really, it's a state of being. It's not a number on a page. And so to your point, like, man, to be prosperous, it's to understand it's not mine, and there's this liberation that comes from it.
There's so many real wealth, Jared, is not it's not money. Real wealth is going to look like what your health is like. Again, time, talent, treasure. Yep. Am I using my abilities the best I can? Am I keeping my health up? Am I, yes, managing, understanding my treasure, but it's a whole being. In order for you to be full of joy, sometimes for you to be full of joy, you need to get knocked back a few steps. Quite honestly, you've got to go through a challenge, and sometimes we're the closest to Him when we're walking through that challenge, when we're into suffering. It's around right now, we're about ready to go into Easter and celebrating salvation, right? There is scripture out there that says, I want to be closer through suffering, right? To understand more of what you went through for me. I didn't deserve it. It's grace. But some of the things we're going through, and believe me, there's so many worse real challenges out there than a portfolio going up and down. But even that little challenge can bring us a little bit closer to understanding we need a Savior.
Securities offered through Avantax Investment Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Avantax Advisory Services. Insurance services offered through an Avantax affiliated insurance agency.